A new year, a new start. In this video, there will be a lot of new things happening. And yes, I'm back on doing some voiceover over my videos. And in addition, my son will do his debut into content creation, as he will appear in this video later on, so stick around. Bless him, he did an incredible job. And no, he's not on my payroll yet because legally I can't employ him yet. But eventually I will. In the meantime, I just treated him some nice toys in return of his incredible performance. So just to give you a little bit of a background on this project, a few months ago I did something very similar to one of my followers. And when my little boy saw the end project, he absolutely loved it. So I thought I would trick him and I will use one of his favorite little Hot Wheels car to make a very similar project. And here I'm using some resin with added fluorescent powder, and you will see at the end it's really cool when it's charged with some UV light and lights off. And for this video and for the upcoming videos, I partnered up with Let's Resin. Over the coming weeks and months, I will give a real test to this resin. And starting with some smaller pours, I will be making my way all the way to the bigger urns and some bigger castings and see how this resin will handle some deep casting. But as you will see at the end, this resin turned out pretty cool. And if you want to show a little bit of support and you want to explore using resin, then you find some affiliated link in my description and the comment section for both UK and US customers. For this particular project, I decided to use my favorite wood, which is Australian mallee burl. And if you don't know what burl is simply is a growth on a tree that forms due to a stress, such as an injury or disease. And through natural formation, it results in swirling and interlock grain pattern that is highly prized for its beauty. And yeah, I did Google this just to give you the most accurate description of a burl. I get this comment a lot in terms of what I use to mount my pieces onto the vase block. I have been using ZUP 5 minutes or ZUP 30 minutes epoxy resin the past several years, and I never ever had a failure. Other than when I really pushed the limit of this resin and I did not have the relevant support from the tail end. But otherwise, I find this is one of the easiest and best way of mounting your piece on the lathe and get going with turning. At least it just works exceptionally well for me. The second very common question, what tools are you using for hybrid projects? And from experience and also learning from other makers, I find carbide tools works the best on resin projects. And I'm not saying high-speed steel will not work, but from my own experience, I prefer to work with carbide tools. And more specifically, when it comes to resin, I always use my negative rake cutting bits. I found traditional carbide bits can be a little bit too aggressive when it comes to resin and can cause an enormous amount of chip outs. Plus it can be very painful when they hit your hand. And you can see when you have a nice and sharp bit, it will produce some really nice white ribbons, and that's what you're looking for. And also a common question to answer. At the end of the day or end of the week, all the resin shavings just go into a general bin and will be sent to a recycling center. However, resin isn't recyclable in this form, and this is why it goes into a general bin. However, if you know a better way of disposing resin shavings, or you know a way to recycle or upcycle resin shavings, please let me know, because I would love to partner with someone and somehow make this waste useful. But also for all the resin haters, resin in this format, once it's all cured, isn't particularly a toxic material. Resin is mainly toxic when it's going through its curing process and part A and part B is mixed and the chemical reaction is start kicking in. And this is where we have to use relevant respiratory system, PPEs, and good extraction in your work area. But once it's all cured, it is relatively safe to work with. However, I always wear appropriate PPE while I'm working with resin or even with wood as well. And also resin nowadays are very different than the resins 20-25 years ago. But I do appreciate if you don't like resin. But I also have to make a point, I'm probably not the cause of global warming, as many of you would say. Once I have the desired shape, I will then move on to do some sanding. And it can be a tedious job, but I will consider one of the most important parts in order to achieve the right finish. So after probably 45-60 minutes of sanding, making my way from 80 grit all the way till 3000, it is time to polish. This will be a 3-stage polishing component, and I normally turn it on a higher end of my lathe, which is about 2.5-3,000 RPM. I will stay on stage 1 polishing until all the sanding marks are completely gone. This will be a constant stop and go and checking the piece whether I can still see any sanding marks. Once I'm happy, I will progress on to stage 2 and stage 3 just to really provide that very high gloss, glass-like finish. And no, here I'm not hiding the piece from any sneak peek. It's really just to provide some sort of support in case the piece somehow decides to come off the lathe without my intention, as it happened in the past. And returning to voiceover was just the first step of spicing up and changing up my content. There will be a lot more coming over the coming weeks and months, including a workshop move, a new studio setup, and eventually returning front of the camera and do a lot more entertaining content. Plus also working on a lot of cool projects what I can put up on my website, because you have shown so much support and love over the past few weeks and months. My inventory has gone very low, so I have some restocking to do. But in case you want to buy something, head over to my website, link down here or down in my description too. And as we are nearly at the end, let me know down below in the comments, what do you think about my little boy's performance front of the camera? As I said, this was the first time, so don't be too harsh. But does he deserve some extra bonus for his performance?
Oh, Daddy. Wow, where did you get this car from? Is this my car?
Yes, it is.
How do I get it out?
This is yours.
Oh, wow.
Bless him. It always makes me giggle when I rewatch this content. Thanks for watching. See you back at the next one.